Hi everyone, my name is Connor. I'm a PhD student in the MaREI Centre, and I'm going to give you a quick overview now of the virtual climate hack, a quick look at some of the material that we have provided, and then also an overview of the event format. So the first thing is just to take a look at the Cork energy demand, which is provided in the overview sheet, and then also the southwest region, because there's schools from Kerry joining as well as yourselves in Cork. As you can see there, the Cork Energy makes up quite a large share of the southwest region, so it's almost the entire 12 out of the 15%. And if we look at the breakdowns per sector, we can see that it's very similar to Ireland, with transport, residential, and industry dominating. So the first two challenges that we've set for you are transport and residential heating, because as they are some of the largest shares of the energy demand, they're also then some of the largest sources of carbon emissions. And the third challenge then, if we look at our fuel share in Cork at the moment, is renewable energy. So it's only about 12% of the energy coming from renewables at the moment, and then a large reliance on oil in particular, a lot of oil heating, and then also transport, which is primarily petrol and diesel, a derivative of oil, and then the bit on natural gas there as well. So looking at the first challenge, some of the technology options you might want to look at would be just simply replacing the cars that we have now with electric vehicles, or if you wanted to go a little bit more radical, what we call a modal shift, which could have greater impact, would be if we had people cycling and walking instead of driving, or if everyone took a bus. And then recently, of course, we've seen with COVID that there's the option perhaps that people work from home. Why commute at all if you don't have to go to the office? This is obviously a little bit more challenging if you have young kids that you need to manage, but for a lot of people, this is a great option and it has the potential to bring a lot of savings. The second challenge that we have for you is residential heating. So taking the example here from the Tipperary Energy Agency and their superhome model, the very first thing that you want to look at when you're looking at residential heating is what we call the building fabric. So that's the insulation. It's a little bit like humans. If we were cold, we would be asked why we're not wearing a jumper. And we could apply the same logic to a house. If a house is cold, it's probably because it's not very well insulated and a lot of the heat is escaping out of the walls. So the very first thing we do is we insulate, and then after that, we might look at how we can improve the air tightness. So looking at the leaks and the drafts around the doors. Most of you have probably grown up in a house where the door is banged or whatever during the winter, and this is because of those air leaks. And then moving on from that, once we've kind of addressed these first issues around insulation and made sure the house is warm and it's nice and tightly sealed, we could look at something like a heat pump to provide the heating instead of a boiler or a fireplace. And then also perhaps you might generate your own electricity with some solar PV on the roof. The final challenge then, as I said, is renewable energy. So what you'll probably be most familiar with is the ones on the right there, a wind turbine or a solar PV. We've been very successful to date in Ireland at generating electricity from wind. Last year it was 36% of our electricity use, so pretty significant. We're actually world leaders in onshore wind, with the most onshore wind as a share of our overall electricity, which is very impressive. But electricity is only about 20% of our overall energy. So there is a lot of other stuff that we need to look at as well. So that's what we've got anaerobic digestion up there. This is the idea that you can take organic waste, a bit like you do in your compost heap, and you can put it into an anaerobic digester and then get useful biomethane, which could be put into transport or heating. And then I've given a couple of other examples there of renewable energy technologies you might want to look into. The biomass, which is just simply wood, and then hydropower, and then some slightly more unproven ones with ocean renewables or the hydrogen. It was very popular when we did this climate hack last year, and the idea that maybe we should have nuclear energy. These are the slightly more unproven, but maybe more interesting for those of you that like looking into technology. Feel free to research away. So if you're looking at trying to pull some numbers together, I've given some example calculations on the sheets, which I tried to make as simple as possible. If you do have problems with those, you can email us through your teacher for some clarification. Some of the things that might catch you if you're not too familiar with physics is the units. So this chart is to try to explain that. We start with 1, and then if we go to 1,000, we have a kilo, and if we go to a million, we have 10 to the 6, which is mega, and then billion would be 10 to the 9, which we call giga. So usually when we talk about energy, it's in the kilowatt hour would be the electricity in your house we usually talk about. And but yeah, so you'll see on the sheets there's the different units. Just try to not get confused and remember to divide by 1,000 if you have to. And then just to highlight, yeah, so power is our work divided by time. So that's which is given in watts. So if you remember your light bulbs, you usually talk about those in watts. It's a 40 or a 50 watt bulb, and then energy is power over time. So if I leave a 40-watt light bulb on for an hour, then it needs 40 by 1, which is 40 watt hour. And that's the energy. If it was 2 hours, it would be 80 because it would be 2 by 40. So in all the sheets, it's generally the energy that I've given. But just be careful if you're doing a bit of research and you're coming across numbers that you're getting the right one. So what you need to do, the first thing is to organize into groups. I don't know if you're going to do this yourselves or through the teachers. And then if you check out our website, we've given a load of materials. So there's an overview sheet, and then there's a sheet for each of the challenges. And then there's a supplementary information sheet, which gives the emission factors, so the amount of CO2 per kilowatt hour for the different fuels that are currently used in Cork, and then also the cost, so the euro per kilowatt hour that is spent, if you want to do some estimations on the CO2 savings and the cost savings. So then choose one of the challenges, or yeah, you can decide to do your own thing. I've gone with the transport, residential, and renewable energy is a pretty good way to catch kind of the two biggest challenges, and then pretty much everything. But if there was something that you were particularly interested in, like perhaps agriculture, feel free to go ahead and do that. And then I've also given a poster template, which is just a PowerPoint you can fill in. But if you didn't like it, or you wanted to do something a little bit more creative, if you didn't like the whatever being told exactly how to fill it in, feel free to come up with your own arts and crafts and representation of the idea. And there will be an event on Wednesday with me and a couple of the people that I work with in climate and energy policy. So these are experts that advise at a national level how Ireland could achieve the net zero target by 2050. So if you have any questions, I suppose, on technologies or different things that you think we should be doing to try to meet these targets, or stuff that you're unsure about, there is a Google form that you'll be able to get on the website to fill in, and then we can answer on Wednesday. And the session will be recorded and put on YouTube. So if you can't make that hour, you can still submit your question and watch back later and see what happens. And then finally, yeah, so on whatever Wednesday afternoon after the session, if you had something you wanted to ask, or Thursday during the day, if you submit through your teacher by email to us your posters, and on Friday we'll announce a winner, I think, through our social media platform, and then also we'll get in touch. And in the meantime, if you have any problems or questions about the calculations or some of the information that's on the worksheets, feel free to get in touch with us through your teacher, and we'll be more than happy to help.